Hi, I'm Dr. Crystal Collier, and today we're going to explore the effects of technology on our brain. I know that looks like a lot, but don't worry. I don't want to take away your technology. I love my screens too. But it's good to know how too much technology may affect our brain and what you can do to protect it, especially while you're growing your frontal lobe. Remember the brain's rule: use it or lose it. The brain cells that you use a lot make long chains of connected cells for the things you're doing a lot. These chains start to grow more connections when you engage in a behavior for 3 or 4 hours at a time. This makes sense if you want to get good at something like playing a sport or debate. You practice for 3 or 4 hours at a time, and your brain grows long networks of cells for those things. Or if you spend your time gaming or using social media for 3 or 4 hours at a time, then your brain grows networks for those skills instead. What things are you doing for 3 or 4 hours at a time? Do you ever feel like you're on screens too much? How's that affecting you? Let's take a look at a study that shows how too much screen time can alter brain connections. Scientists measured cell networks of 2 groups of students. If you connected all the red dots, you'd see the brain connectivity of a group of teens who used recreational technology no more than a couple hours a day. Compare that to the purple lines, which show the brain connectivity of a group of teens who dropped out of high school and used tech up to 12 hours a day at the internet cafe. Notice this thick area of connectivity for the tech over users. This is the motor and sensory cortex areas of the brain, which makes sense because those are the parts of the brain they're using the most. But look at how many brain cell networks they're developing in their frontal lobe. Not many, especially when you compare that to the students who use technology less and engage in a variety of other activities. This could be scary because our frontal lobe is where our executive functioning skills are that grow in those 2 phases of brain development, but only if we use them. In order to do that, first we need to focus and pay attention. Remember that the skill of paying attention has something called practice effects, which means the more you practice, the more you grow networks for paying attention. But we have too much to pay attention to. There's so much technoference and digital stimuli flooding our brain. And if you already have attention problems, this makes it even harder. A hilarious study first conducted in the year 2000 measured our attention span at about 12 seconds. When they conducted the study again in 2018, we lost 4 seconds. Apparently, goldfish have an attention span of 9 seconds. Now they got us beat? What do you think? Is your tech use having a positive or a negative effect on your attention span? And what's that doing to you? One of the effects of not using our brain can be seen in the area of navigation. We don't learn how to read maps anymore, so we're losing our ability to navigate or figure out where we are and how to get places without GPS. The part of the brain that memorizes things, called the hippocampus, it's getting smaller. It's shrinking because we're not using it as much. Our tech use is increasing our levels of anxiety because of something called a constant state of insufficiency. This happens when there's always more to do, more games to play, more episodes to watch, more email to check, more posts to like. It never ends. Being constantly connected to our screens leads to something called popcorn brain. That happens when neurons are constantly firing because of so much stimuli coming into our brain from technology. Our brain needs a few hours to calm down from these effects, especially before sleep. What do you think? With so much of our attention span being split, can it affect our decisions, our values, what we believe is right and wrong? This study was surprising. Teens looked at this picture with a few likes while they were in a brain scan. The part of the brain that's connected to our eyes lights up as they look at the photo. But when you ask them, "What are you thinking?" they say, "Drinking and driving is stupid and dangerous. Don't do it. Duh." But look what happened when the researchers increased the number of likes. Now you can see that parts of the limbic system and the frontal lobe light up. And when asked what they thought now, students said, "Well, I'm trying to figure out why more people like it. Maybe it's not so bad after all." If social media can make you second guess yourself and your decisions, might it also affect how you feel about yourself and your body? Do people feel present but somehow absent when they're on their screens? Our self-worth is being affected because we get the message that we're not as important as what's on the screen. Young people are even going to plastic surgeons to have work done to make them look more like their selfies. But taking pictures of yourself distorts what your features actually look like. So if you think you should look more like your selfie, you may have something called selfie dysmorphia and think your face is distorted when it's not. Sadly, the I generation is experiencing more isolation, depression, meaninglessness, and suicidal risk than generations that came before them. Tech researchers are seeing this phenomenon all over the world. In Japan, they call it hikikomori syndrome, where over 1 million young people are experiencing tech overuse, resulting in isolation and lack of motivation for anything that's not screen related. So what can we do? Think, use it, or lose it. Our brain needs plenty of in-person time and less screen time. Disconnecting and letting our brain daydream and roam free helps increase creativity and relaxation. So our digital self-care plan should include the brain balance rule, which says for every hour of screen time we engage in an hour of something else to balance out what our brain is using and losing. The something else should include a lot of face-to-face time, listening and paying attention, relaxing, talking to others, moving your body, and practicing mindfulness. Mindfulness is the skill of slowing down and doing one thing at a time. Finish what you start instead of multitasking. This allows your brain to create long networks of neurons for attention and focus. Take a lot of brain breaks to combat brain drain and give your nervous system a chance to rest and recharge, to be your frontal lobe superhero, especially when it's using your technology.